Good morning, and thank you for joining us. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrived in Israel yesterday, trying to prevent the collapse of peace talks with the Palestinians. Kerry's making his second trip to the region in less than a week. The U.S. Secretary is trying to convince Palestinians to prolong talks beyond the looming April 29th deadline, and Israel to release a fourth tranche of Palestinian prisoners in return. Overnight, he held meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu, another one this morning. A lot of rumor and supposition coming out, including the name Jonathan Pollard thrown into the mix. And to hear more about it, we are joined in studio by Channel 10's diplomatic correspondent, Moav Vardi. Moav, good morning.
Good morning, Yael.
And of course, by also Haaretz, reporter, columnist, and correspondent, Uri Misgav. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Before that, let's take a breakdown at what is going on. Kerry's en route, Moav, supposedly to Ramallah this morning, and then he's still in the meeting with Netanyahu, and there was a meeting last night. There was a second meeting this morning. I'm trying to figure out, this is a surprise visit, this is an immediate visit. Anything achieved in the last 12 hours that we know of?
We don't know of anything that has been achieved. We know of what is on the table, and on the table there is a deal where, let's start the story in July 2013, when the Americans understood from Bibi Netanyahu that he is willing to release 14 Israeli Arabs among those Palestinian prisoners.
Which is supposed to be included in the last fourth batch of 26 prisoners.
That's right. It was supposed to be released yesterday. And now Netanyahu is saying, I cannot release them. They cannot be free. I mean, it's too hard for me politically, in terms of the coalition, in terms of, even the Israeli law. And so they're trying to solve this problem, because the Palestinians say, hey, we stepped into this negotiation back in July 2013 only because we knew those 104 prisoners are going to be released, including those 14 Israeli Arabs. So Kerry is trying, to come up with something that can save the negotiations from being failed. I just want to add something. No. And now the deal is going to be like that. The deal that's being negotiated, not achieved yet, is like that. Israel will release about 400 prisoners, right, including those Israeli Arabs. 14
Israeli Arabs.
And in addition to that, is going to make some kind of settlement building freeze in the Judea and Samaria, and in return, the United States is going to set Pollard free. And
that's reports that we're hearing this morning that have not been confirmed by anybody. This is coming from sources close to the negotiations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and U.S. admins, officials, are briefing the American press back in Washington about that this is what is being negotiated. So you can feel, that the Americans are trying to prepare the public opinion to the options that Pollard is going to be out. Now, it's well understood everywhere, including here in Jerusalem, that if the United States is going to set Pollard free, it's not going to be only for 14 prisoners or Israeli Arabs. It's going to be much more.
It's a big card.
That's why Israel is now having to commit itself to release like 400 prisoners, to stop settlement freeze, and to negotiate in good faith in order to try to make this.
Speaking
work.
of if Jonathan Pollard's name that has come up in the mix over the course of last night, and he's being a card to use for what? So Netanyahu can sell the idea of 400 Palestinian prisoners and a settlement freeze to sell to his coalition?
Yes, and among these 14 Israeli Arabs. These 14 Israeli Arabs, maybe we should point it out to our viewers. It's not like we have 26 prisoners from the Judea and Samaria, from the West Bank, and then 14 from
Greater Israel,
Baqa
so to speak,
Greater Israel, inside the green light. It's something else. They are under the Israeli, what's the word in English?
Judiciary law.
Judiciary law. And it's something that it has nothing to do with Abu Mazen as the entity of the Palestinian Authority. So it's something very, very hard, because if Netanyahu is now releasing 14 Israeli Arabs because due to a demand from foreign leaders, from Abu Mazen, it's like an intervention with the Israeli law and with the Israeli public life. Next thing the president of France will demand the release of French citizens sitting here for something. It's not working like that. So Netanyahu has to, in some way to tackle this problem, and he's saying to Kerry, look, I cannot do it. If you want me to do it, and Kerry says, look, if you are not going to release those 14 Israeli Arabs prisoners,
right,
the talks will collapse. and the Palestinians will, leave the room, rightly so, because they got our commitment. They got my commitment. John Kerry, the Secretary of State of the United States, told them back in July 2014, you're going to get these prisoners. That the reason that you didn't understand me, I didn't understand you, Mr. Prime Minister, it's not a good enough reason for the Palestinians to stay in the table. So now they're trying, to find a solution to this problem, major problem. And Netanyahu say, look, if you're going to give me Pollard, then I might be able to do it.
Then I can sell this to the coalition.
It's only a matter of public opinion and coalition. After all.
Yeah, but Uri Miskav, that you work for Haaretz, that's a newspaper that reported that Pollard himself has said in the past that he doesn't want to be released as a swap for Palestinian prisoners. And I'm just asking now in theory, because you're a columnist, we need to remind people that the two sides are meeting to secure a deal that will secure a deal to extend talks about a framework for a deal, right?
Thank you for taking all I've got here. Let's zoom out for a while for this picture. One can look at this picture and say, this is a farce. We're talking about means to prolong talks that are going nowhere.
Talks about talks.
Talks about talks. In the talks, you talk about definition, the Jewish state, things like that. You're talking about prisoner that Moav tells. What about the core issue? No one tackles them anymore. And for my humble opinion, maybe this last effort of Kerry is courageous, but it's also, in a world,
ridiculous. Is somebody
ridiculous.
like Jonathan Pollard such a powerful card to be used for the Israeli public?
For the Israeli public, yes, because we've been educated on his heritage. He's a national hero here. But interesting point, is it a symbol also for the party called the Jewish Home?
Right.
Because they are the one from the right wing that are threatening Netanyahu to leave the coalition if he sets free more prisoners. Will they take the Pollard bite? It puts them in an interesting corner.
No, definitely. And just to try and figure this out, what is Kerry then taking to Ramallah this morning? What do you mean? He's taking this 400 idea of prisoners and a settlement freeze. I'm wondering on the settlement freeze, I'm going to push you on that. Is this the type of coalition with Naftali Bennett in it that will ever go for a settlement freeze yet again after 9 months of just discussions about discussions? Can it be sold?
I'll try to make 2 points. First of all, it's not going to be announced as settlement freeze. On the ground, there are not going to be any new building. But Netanyahu is not going to announce settlement freeze as he did in 2009, 2010. He's just not going to issue new housing plans for the West Bank in this period.
Right.
So this might make the thing easier for the right wingers in his coalition. Second, after all, politics is about alternatives. And if Naftali Bennett knows that the other alternative is to leave the coalition,
Let's wait
not.
And see.
Let's wait and see. Let's see if that happens. Thank you both for joining me on this issue. We'll be moving on to the second. A Tel Aviv court has found former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert guilty of bribery linked to a Jerusalem property development in one of the worst corruption scandals in the Israeli history. It's a verdict that shook the country yesterday. It projects on the political sphere and the administration past and maybe also in the future. To hear more about it, still joined in studio by Haaretz journalist and blogger Uri Miskav, Channel 10 diplomatic correspondent Moav Vadi. Let's take a look first at how this came about.
It was one of the dramatic days ever in the Israeli judicial system. Former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was convicted of bribery. As a Tel Aviv District Court Judge David Rosen read out the 700-page verdict, it was clear this is a ruling that will shake the country.
The court has said, loud and clear, no more defilement, no more government corruption.
The Holy Land case is considered the Israeli trial of the century, regarding a controversial real estate project in Jerusalem built around a decade ago when Olmert was Jerusalem mayor. Olmert, together with his one-time closest aide Shula Zaken, another former mayor Uri Lopoliansky, and 12 other defendants, were accused of taking and giving bribes in the development of the massive construction project. The crucial piece in the case was Shmuel Dechner, a businessman involved in the project that turned state witness. According to the decision, Dechner, representing the real estate developer, bought the services of the mayor and other officials to promote the project, transferring thousands of shekels to elected and public officials, including Olmert's debt-ridden brother Yossi, who received checks for $143,000 at Olmert's behest. 3 of the defendants were cleared, but 10 were convicted. Naturally, the spotlight of the verdict was a former prime minister. The judge dismissed his claims that the state witness was unreliable and accused him of lying to court.
We are going to read the long, very long judgment and to see what we can argue in the next step for the after the conviction, and to consider whether to appeal on the judgment.
Olmert resigned premiership back in 2008 following a series of corruption allegations. Even before the Holy Land scandal broke, he could face up to 10 years imprisonment. But in any case, any prospect of political comeback is now a faraway dream.
Roy Miskav, Haaretz journalist and blogger, why is this so incredibly dramatic for the country of Israel?
It took one brave judge to put an end to this decade of corruption. We're talking now in Israel this morning, correct me if I'm wrong, Moav, about an earthquake, about a thunder in the blue sky. And the only earthquake is that the right judge in the right place did justice probably for the first time. We got used to Ehud Olmert himself and his colleagues getting away one time after another with those issues. It took one judge to put a stop to
it. And it's a decade of trials and tribulations back and forth. I think the thing that's so, mind-boggling about this, that looking at the people, this is not just Olmert, but it's a cadre of people manipulating the real estate scenery in Jerusalem. Yeah.
As said in Haaretz this morning, it looks like a white-collar gang, organized crime gang with white collars. It's not only Olmert, it's other people that we knew from the news, from the business, from the parties. They were ruling Israel for the last decade, and this is why this is so amazing.
And speaking of the political, ambiance, Moav, I'm glad you're still here. How does this project for other politicians? I mean, do we think this is a precedent? Do we think that people should, take heed right now? Or is this somebody, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, but that, Olmert was going to go down because the system was ready to bring him down?
No, I think that, it's going to change the political behavior in Israel from now on. I would say another thing, there is this phrase in English, the bastard changed the rules and the judge just didn't let me know. I think that's the case. I mean, all these guys, Olmert and all these guys, I don't think that in real time they thought they're doing a crime. Because let me rephrase it, okay? They thought maybe they're doing a crime, but it was like, Olmert, just like Uri said, it's the one person that didn't get away with that. Because of the right judge in the right place. I mean, it used to be the system. It used to be the system in Israel. It's sad to say this morning, but it is part of our political culture in Israel. Right. That's how thing works. This Dechner guy, the Macher, we call it in Hebrew, in Jewish, okay? The Macher is not an exception. He was a part of the system. That's how the system works. So I think now this verdict by the judge will change the political culture. No more machers that can give you $100,000 here and $100,000 there in order to to promote things. And part of it was was walking not in the dark side and not in the bright side. It was in the green area, in the gray area. Right. And now no gray area, no machers, no envelope here and there. We have to stop. We have to walk like that. And I think this verdict is going to change the political culture in Israel.
Well, if we're talking about the political culture in Israel, Uri, I'm wondering with you, because the political culture also, when we look at the leaders of Israel in the last several years, last several decades, there are people who are holding cigars and drinking whiskeys, and it's very much not the type of ambience that we're used to. I mean, but if you say it took just one judge, is all the rest of it going to then go slide away?
So let me adopt the optimistic view here.
Okay.
We had the social protest in the summer of 2011. That changed.
It died.
Yeah, it died, but it changed the atmosphere. Now Moav has told us that the norms and the politics have been changed. Maybe we're going to a new era in Israel. It took an effort. Everybody is corrupted. The 4 last prime ministers were investigated, including Netanyahu. But maybe Israelis slowly and with
What is changing though? Because we're looking at, there's a former president, Moshe Katsav, that's sitting in jail, for rape charges.
Yes, but they are all, they all belong to the decade I'm talking about. The first decade of this millennium was the corruption decade of Israel. maybe those people are now belonging to the past. We don't know yet. But as my colleagues here said, people will be more cautious. People will will restrain themselves. Maybe. It's a lovely day today in Tel Aviv. Let's hope for that.
Let's hope for that. And really quickly, do we believe that he can get away, that former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert can get away with it this time, that any kind of appeal, or this is too damning, isn't it?
Let us not forget there's 2 appeals on his former crimes in the Supreme Court. He might now lose those appeals also. Maybe it's a back wing for the appeals. I'm not sure he's going to appeal for this one.
As you said, definitely a shattering verdict that came down yesterday. Uri Mizga, thank you for joining me. Mu'avadi, same to you. When we get back, the UN scientific panel releases a severe report sounding alarm on climate change dangers and its irreversible effects. First, though, let's hear some more of this morning headlines. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should be, because that's where usually we say hello to Tony Grant, but we've sent him out on assignment, and we do say hello to Yasmin K, who's joining us this week to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines. It is also April Fool's Day.
It is April Fool's Day.
So anything and everything you say is still true.
Oh,
right?
no. Well, I was thinking on tomorrow's show I might do a little special about the best kind of fake headlines from April, because unfortunately we haven't had any that many yet. They're still going to be coming throughout the rest of the day.
We were thinking that we can sit here and announce peace in the Middle East.
Well, peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's the big headline of this morning.
News.
Yeah, breaking news.
Breaking news. They've come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Kerry's work has paid off.
Everything's fine now,
Everything's
folks.
okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. Well, I've just decided to do a little bit of a different program today.
Okay.
Without telling you. No, I just wanted to bring a few news stories that are actually positive. This is all
from
news.
You.
Yes.
From you.
Yes, so I thought I'd bring some happy stories. The first one is a JPO story. This is about the legalisation of same-sex marriage in England.
Right.
And we had the first Jewish woman who was one of the first same-sex couples to wed in the UK.
Right.
So I thought that was a cute story.
Yeah, that's very nice. That's actually an
with.
Optimistic one.
It is, yeah. It was one of the ceremonies that started soon after the law came into force, which was on midnight on Saturday.
Amen,
which is believed to be, according to the Jewish Chronicle, who are cited in the J-Post, it's the first same-sex marriage in the UK that had Jewish elements.
Right, and that was the first one that had Jewish elements, or the first same-sex marriage?
No. The first Jewish same-sex marriage in the UK.
Okay, there is a God, apparently.
Yeah, so I thought that was a happy story. Also, on a similar line, David Furnish and Elton John have announced that they are now going to get married as well. They're already in a civil partnership.
Right.
But in the wake of the law, they've decided they're planning a low-key wedding.
For years,
they have. They
got.
They had a civil partnership back in 2005.
Right.
Now, what I love about this is they said they're going to have a low-key wedding, which I just can't imagine Elton John as low-key.
What does low key in Elton John standards mean?
Yes.
Yes.
It's only 3 or 4 costume changes.
The dress is just going to be gold? Yeah.
Mate, do you remember that Marie Antoinette thing?
Exactly.
That was amazing.
That would be it.
That was so
that
good.
Would be it. Yeah, that's the dress. Okay.
Yes. So also in Ukraine, we've also obviously seen a lot of news coming out of that region recently. But we've also got Darth Vader. This is Darth Vader who's announced he's running for president. Yes, he's going to represent...
He might win.
He might win. He's going to represent the Ukrainian Internet Party, which is a party...
There is the Ukrainian Internet Party.
They aim to create the world's first government by internet. They're going to abolish paper-based bureaucracy. Which I kind of like the sound of, actually.
It's good for the planet.
Yep. So Darth Vader, I think he issued a statement saying, "I alone can make an empire out of a republic, restore former glory, return lost territories and pride."
Have we made sure that it's not Putin behind that mask? Come on, think about that.
That's
amazing. Might be that. I mean,
it could be
conspiracy theorist here, but still, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yes. So that's happening in Ukraine. Now, in France, a French couple has received €4,000 in compensation after being terrorised by a town hall people. peacock. This is amazing.
I love the French.
Yes.
Okay, terrorized by town hall peacocks.
Yes,
He specifically targeted them.
Well, I initially thought, oh, come on. But apparently peacocks can be really...
They're nasty.
Yeah, it can be really nasty.
Yeah.
So basically, they were left with insomnia and depression after 4 years living with this bird. It was given as a gift to the mayor. And then it just kind of, escaped.
Went on its own.
It began wandering through
As
neighbours'
a French
gardens.
peacock would do.
Of course.
Yes.
The laissez-faire attitude to what extends to the peacock.
Exactly.
So, yes.
And targeted this couple.
Well, it was wandering around their house and keeping them awake. They actually had to go to a psychiatrist and receive therapy because apparently these shrill, raucous shrieks.
I gotta say, if this were to happen in the Middle East, that peacock would have been dinner on the first week. Yeah, no, it would be, served stuffed with some rice and tahina next to it and solve everybody's problem.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like this. This is like a new kind of option, like how to solve problems with
stuffed peacock.
Stuffed peacock.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's, I thought it was a lighter story, maybe not for the couple who are traumatized by this peacock.
But yeah, the peacock clearly won.
Yes. And also on our kind of good news segment today, not really for Japan, but Japan has lost a whaling case in the international court.
That's good news.
That has ruled that the practice of whaling in certain areas is not for scientific purposes, as they've claimed. Australia sued Japan at the UN, and it's a major victory for them, but it doesn't actually spell the end of whaling.
It's maybe, whaling is still going to go on, but still, the fact that on one case that actually worked, that's good.
Exactly.
They were claiming that this was for what? The killing and the culling was for scientific reasons?
Scientific reasons. They're also citing the fact that in Japanese culture, they have a long kind of historic tradition of whaling, which they're saying is being attacked by people. They've said it's equivalent to in India demanding a ban on
cows.
Yeah, although in India, they revere cows.
Exactly.
So it's not exactly
they don't slaughter them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
So victory for Australia there.
Victory for Australia, and that's unhappy news, not for the Japanese, but for the whales.
For the whales.
Yasmin, thank you so much. I think we'll leave you with stuffed peacock on this one, but you'll be joining us for the next hour. Thanks. Moving on to a very important story today that is basically about the climate change. Hold on, let me give you the headline on this so we can read it correctly. So there we go. There's a report that came out yesterday. It's a very severe report by the UN scientific panel. It claimed that climate change around the world is becoming so severe that its effects can be completely irreversible, citing that the roller coaster, so to speak, that we have been witnessing in the last couple of years is just the beginning. We're joined in studio by Ruthie Sinai, Senior I-24 News Editor. And before we break it down, let's take a look at the following report.
2013 was a year of extremes. It was the 6th hottest year ever recorded, with high temperatures causing droughts and wildfires. In some parts of the world, 2013 was the wettest, and in the Philippines, it was the most destructive after Typhoon Haiyan killed more than 8,000 people. According to a report released on Monday by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, these are all impacts of global warming, and they will become more severe, more likely, and possibly irreversible. Over the past 6 decades, the increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide have driven average temperatures up by about 0.6 degrees Celsius. And if no action is taken soon, they are predicted to rise even more, an estimated 3.7 degrees in the worst-case scenario. But the risk is not only warmer weather. Rising temperatures are expected to impact everything from the survival of wild and marine animals to the availability of fresh drinking water. The impact on the planet's geophysical systems will include floods, droughts, and sea level rise. And in most cases, existing problems will only get worse. What's already dry will become drier, and what's already wet will become wetter. Storms will inflict heavier destruction, and agriculture will be damaged severely. Although the change is expected to affect all parts of the world, the most significant impact will be on the planet's poorest population, from the destruction of crops and homes to increased food prices and hunger. Beyond listing the very bleak forecast, the panel also suggests possible solutions.
The one message that comes out very clearly is that the world has to adapt and the world has to mitigate. And the sooner we do that, the less the chances of some of the worst impacts of climate change being faced in different parts of the world.
Steps like preserving water and building smart, eco-friendly structures in urban areas are expected to reduce the risks and also improve the economy.
Opportunities for dealing effectively with climate change are opportunities for building more robust economies and more vibrant communities. Dealing with climate change should not be viewed as a deadweight loss to the economy. It should be viewed as ways to invest in innovation, creativity, and more vibrant future.
The futuristic planet described in the report paints a very different world than the one we live in today. And if nothing changes soon, it seems the worst is yet to come.
We're also joined from Paris by senior research scientist at the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique and a member of the team that wrote the report, Professor Jean-Pierre Gattuso. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
A very, very damning report. You're one of the people who wrote it. What is the most important thing we as an audience and people of this planet need to take from that report?
The key point is that the effects of climate change are already occurring everywhere, on all continents and across the oceans, from the tropics to the poles, from the small islands to the big continents, and from for poor people and also for rich people. I mean, this is a widespread impact, and obviously become unless we mitigate and adapt changes.
Okay, and we're going to try one more question because we have a slightly bad connection. You dealt a lot with the warming of the oceans. That's an effect that's coming also from what? That's also man-made, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. The oceans are a fantastic service to human societies. The oceans are storing more than 20% of the energy, the greenhouse effect. It also stores 30% of the CO2 that humans release to the atmosphere. So if we didn't have an ocean, we would have drastic climate change.
Right.
On the ocean.
Professor Gattuso, I'm so sorry to break you up because we have such a bad connection. We can barely hear you. Thank you for trying to join us. Do stay. Hopefully that will change. We are in studio also with Ruthie Sinai, senior news editor for I-24 News. It's not new that, that's the one thing to report, but what is so damning about this report coming out this year?
Yeah. Well, it's considered probably the most comprehensive report on this issue that's come out ever. I think what's new about it, and one of the authors said it, is that we tend to sort of have buried our heads in the sand regarding this. There were some scientists who said there was climate change, some scientists who said there wasn't, there was global warming, there isn't, it's random, it's not real. And now I think this report really makes it clear it's based on something like 12,000 other studies, right. And it's like a meta.
It's like a meta report.
Right,
scientists again claiming, there will always be the anti-evolutionists,
the deniers, yes. But in fact, what it makes clear is that there is climate change, there is global warming, there is a melting of the ice of the polar ice, flooding. We've seen it. We don't really need this report to tell us. We saw it in England just with these last few months with the flooding. We saw it in the drought in California. We're going to see it in the yield of crops. We're going to see it with
And this is something. I'm glad you're mentioning that. It doesn't just affect us by form of biblical style nature disasters.
Right.
This says, we're talking Philippines, we're talking, the tsunamis, whatnot. This is an effect on global economy. This is an effect on societies, doesn't it?
Yes, on human beings, absolutely. It's because crop yields, as I said, rice, corn, maize, wheat, all these things, all these crops, the yields is going to go down because the temperatures are going to go up.
The bread crisis in Egypt, I think, was exactly stretches
bread,
back to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Fish, fish are going to have a harder time, existing in the waters. If the water's levels go up, the fish, may not find enough food. Animals may have to, go higher up, sort of kind of reminds us of Jurassic Park and stuff.
Really, to be elevated
animals
to places,
exactly, to elevate it more, higher places.
What is the time frame the report is stating that? I mean, because there's parts of it that sounds as if we're almost at the point of no return.
Yeah, well, in terms of time and history, we are at the point of no return. We're looking at the year, 30 years from now, perhaps. Some of this is already coming to, as we mentioned, the flooding and so on. Some of it is already coming to bear right now, with water levels going up and ice melting and habitats for various animals.
Right.
And, there's also a huge equity question here that arises as a result of it. In other words, the poorer the country, the less they're going to be able to cope with all these man-made disasters. Man-made, disasters, this is again very unfair because they're made...
it's nature reacting to man-made technology.
To man-made by industrialized, wealthier countries,
right.
And the ones who are going to suffer are the poorer countries. But the rich won't be able to escape it either. This is really, it's going to be harder for the poor.
Which makes one wonder, as you raise a very valid point. When the scientific panel of the United Nations comes out with a report as such, which is very damning, we all jumped on it, as we said, not new, but still, does it have any effect on big companies, on big institutions, and big corporations actually manufacturing these changes in the climate?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, one of the things, I think the first ones that need to take a step here are governments, in terms of, putting, whatever one needs to do in terms of funding. I mean, there's things you can do. We're not going to just sit back and let the water flood over us. There's sea walls that can go up. There's things that one can do in terms of both of emissions, of carbon emissions and things like that. And that has to be government regulated and government mandated and funded,
and not disregarded, or as you told me before the broadcast, that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had what to say about...
he basically said that, denial of science, which is what's been going on, is malpractice, basically. We could really no longer afford to deny these very obvious findings of this report.
One only can wonder and hope that it's this type of report, as you said, that will maybe make governments listen. Ruthie Sinai, thank you for being with us in studio this morning. When we get back, something completely different. What we told you is not a lie, but today is April Fool's Day. And in what way and why do we lie to ourselves daily? We'll try and figure that one out. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Tuesday, April 1st, 2014. This is the morning edition. I'm organizing my desk. I am still Yael Levi. That's no lie, and thank you for staying with us. It is April Fool's Day, as we said, and every one of us was once a victim of this day. Arriving at a meeting that never happened, calling to congratulate someone that didn't know what we were talking about, and so on and so on. I'm talking, of course, about April Fool's Day that is marked today. We are joined in studio by author of Love Online, Professor Aaron Ben-Zeev. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're going to help us dissect this. And you're from Haifa University. Pleasure to have you with us. Before we look at this phenomena of why we lie to ourselves constantly, let's take a look at the following report.
April Fool's Day is all about amusing lies. Yet whatever prank you decided to pull this year, the ultimate joke is probably on you. In this digital age, lying is easier than ever. More so, we often lie to ourselves the most. By sharing our thoughts and documenting every moment, we believe that we lead much more interesting lives than we actually do. The notorious selfie is a tool which helps us imagine ourselves as attractive and as if we function as the center of the universe. Despite these illusions of grandeur, the need to keep a vibrant online persona is also beneficial, as it encourages many to be more productive in real life. True love is also a tricky concept which involves many small lies which helps us make it through the day, if not entire lifetimes. As couples change throughout the years, some prefer to imagine their love is just as strong as ever. Indeed, a reality check is in need for many of us, but it is best to keep it to a minimum.
Professor Ben-Zeev from Haifa University, I want to start with not how much we lie to ourselves daily, because I'm assuming that's a lot. Why do we lie to ourselves?
Yeah, it is interesting question. Why shouldn't we just live in our reality? Why to lie ourselves? Well, the environment is not that good. Reality is not that good.
Ain't that the truth?
Yes,
yes,
the truth. And so we try to improve it, and sometimes by focusing on the positive aspect, sometimes somewhat improving the negative aspect in our mind. But we always want to be in a positive environment. Like we choose our friends. Why we choose our friends? In order to have friends that will say good things about us, that we shall feel comfortable about us. But it is not all the people in the world. We choose in order to feel better.
Which makes me think, actually, isn't Facebook then like the biggest lying tool ever invented?
Yes.
In many ways, no?
In many.
Yeah.
In many ways, it is, there are lies over there. I want to focus about self-lie.
Okay, true.
Like in love. Do you know anything about it? About love, I say, not about
love. Whatever are you asking as I'm sitting here pregnant?
Yes. So you do know something about
a little bit.
A little bit about love. Okay. Now, our partner.
Is love all a lie? Is that what we do when we meet?
Love can last longer if we have positive illusions. We are happier if we have positive illusion.
That's a nicer way of saying love can last longer if you lie to yourself.
Yes, okay. but please take a moderate dose of lying. Not so much, because so much you will be disappointed. And indeed, many cases of suicide, romantic suicide, are on the basis of believing, expecting too much from love, and being disappointed. By the way, men are likely to commit suicide because of romantic rejection.
More than women?
3 to 4 times more than women.
Pussies. Sorry.
We are so sensitive. We are so sensitive.
You hide it so well.
When you disappoint us. So please be careful before you reject a man. He may commit suicide. Please try to be maybe.
No pressure. That gives me so many ideas of things to do at home.
Yeah. So please try to lie to yourself that this person, this partner is very good.
Right.
I
lie to myself daily that my husband does the dishes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because he's given. You cannot escape. I mean, you can.
Yeah, but if you're talking about relationships and love, couples lying to themselves to last longer, what does that mean? How does it show? That's like no fights, no what?
For example, happily married couples tend not to discuss certain issues and to lie about their feelings.
Okay.
There are, someone said that there are more marriages which were ruined by honesty than by lies. So we need.
Don't tell him about the man I'm cheating with, you're saying. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know in pregnancy.
No, sure.
No. But idealization is good. Idealization is really good if you take it moderately. Because if you do it all the time and you become addicted to it, you will not be able to live. Reality will confront you. So you have just to look at the positive aspect. In a sense, love is not blindness. It is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. You just look at the positive aspect and feel better. For example, it was a study about couples who love each other and intensely love each other after 20 and 30 years. Do you believe?
I do, because I think after 20 years, you're like, my God, how did we last?
Yes.
Right? There's one of those, like, we did it.
More
than at the beginning.
Husband say to his wife, I love you now after 10 years of marriage, more than I did at our marriage. And then a reply is, did you not love me at our marriage? Only now you begin to love me.
Exactly.
But in this experiment, they put people into fMRI and show picture of their partner. And in those couples who love each other very much, indeed the activity of the brain was similar to that of new love.
Okay.
So from now on, you will never get into fMRI. Yes.
Ever.
Never.
Yes. And that is because of positive illusions.
And now,
yes.
They ask, another study asked, what is common to all these people? And the one common aspect was that they perceive each other precisely as they perceived 30 years ago.
Okay.
And we change over 30 years.
Yeah.
Some of us have wrinkles, some of us white hair.
Yeah.
My hair, by the way, is not a color. It is.
This is real.
This is real. It is not like.
You're not lying to yourself.
Not like.
Okay.
No, not yet. but what it means that we perceive the same. Maybe we take some aspect, your beautiful smile, your beautiful eyes,
Keep lying.
I'm not lying. I'm just trying to be charming.
No, it's working. Yeah, it's working.
But this will not change. Also, 20 years from now, you will have the same smile, the same blue eyes. Blue eyes is it. There are many songs about blue eyes. Huh? Wonderful.
This guy's staying. Okay.
So, if your partner, tell him, focus only on my eyes, or my smile. Don't look at other things.
Don't look at my behind. Don't look at the wrinkles. Just look here. Okay.
And then you may perceive me the way we met 20 years ago, and then you will be happy with me and love me for a long time.
Yeah.
By the way, also happiness
is a lie.
It is not. Not everything is a lie.
No,
but you just
have
to help a little bit your mind to perceive the best things in your environment. Happiness also depends on positive illusions.
Right.
Why to look at the negative aspect of life? Life is so complex, in our environment so complex. Why to focus about the negative aspect? Why not to focus on what is positive and nice, and then you will be very happy and very in love.
Listen, I'm completely sold. I hope none of this was a lie. Professor Benzev, do stay with us in the studio. We're going to move on to something completely different. Yes. Okay, Yasmin K replacing Tony Grant, who's off chasing some lie. And you're here with the web review.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I was very touched by that segment. That was very sweet. And I came up with a slogan during Love is not blindness, it's kindness.
Oh my God!
Yes.
What have you done to people in the? I'm the only one that's saying
getting all weepy.
Yes.
No, it's really cute. It was like my grandparents. They've been married for 50 years, and my granddad still says my grandmother's beautiful and she looks wonderful.
She's got blue eyes, huh?
If Gran's watching this, you're beautiful.
You're
no wrinkles.
You're gorgeous.
Lovely.
Yes.
It's very sweet. Anyway, this is the first item I want to start with is an item on HuffPost. Went viral. This is a baby porcupine that was rescued from its dead mother's womb following a car accident. It's being nursed back to health in America. Now, the story behind this is pretty insane. This is a guy who was driving in a car with his friend. It's a guy. He saw a porcupine get run over. Okay, now like any normal person, he decided to pull up by the side of the road and cut the dead porcupine open.
Perform a C-section.
Yes, in order to search for its bezoar. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I hope I am. Which is a stone-like material that sometimes is created in an animal's stomach, and it's believed to have medicinal powers in Far Eastern medicine. If you're a Harry Potter fan,
he wasn't looking for the baby.
No. He didn't know it was pregnant. He was just like, I'm going to gut this porcupine
and get the bezoar. Okay. Where is this in America?
Maine.
Maine. Oh, okay.
No
yeah.
state is safe.
Well, but
So this guy cut it open and he was surprised to find this little baby porcupine. So he took it home and he's nursing it back to health before it's going to be.
Okay,
yes, before it's going to be rehabilitated. He didn't find the bezoar, but look how cute that is.
No, very, 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 very sweet. That's an incredibly heartwarming story.
Scary, like how he got to it.
No, creepy. The
Really
gutting
creepy.
is awful, but yes.
Okay, so another cute story. This is another video that went viral this week. This is a two-legged boxer dog called Duncan Luhu. We're going to see him running along. He's very cute. So he's a two-legged puppy that had his rear legs removed.
Oh my God.
Well, okay, they were born when he was deformed, and he does have a wheelchair, but he actually prefers to run around on two legs.
No, that's an amazing coordination.
Yeah, and as you can see, he's doing fine. I mean, he's a happy pup.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Japan?
No, this is in Washington State.
In Washington State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. This is the first time, his first time at the beach.
I'm happy. I'm happy. See, he's not lying to himself.
You see?
He's really happy.
He's very happy.
He's very, very happy. Okay, wow.
Okay, so
I love it.
story.
You're like cute. You're killing us with cute animal videos.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
So from cute animals to smelly feet.
To smelly feet, yes.
Yeah. So this is a girl in New Mexico who has won the odor eaters.
Guys, we're moving on. I think everybody in the control. We gotta let go of the dog. We gotta let go of the dog. Yes, the next item.
So odor eaters run a national contest, which is obviously an advertising promotion, but it's trying to discover the smelliest sneakers in America. Yes. Now the judges.
God, Americans come up with the craziest things.
But what's great is the judges are actually distinguished. There's the NASA's master sniffer, who's responsible for, he's a chemist for NASA.
Right.
He specializes in odors. He makes sure odors
are okay.
Yeah, I mean, aboard the ISS, there's no way to get rid of bad odors. So he was one of the judges, and they basically smell people's trainers and decide which are the worst. So this 12-year-old girl won the competition. She won $2,500 for having smelly feet.
For smelling feet.
Yes.
Yes, something to aspire to for all us.
Lovely.
All of us, yes.
Okay, so another story in Japan. This is a guy who had the ultimate bad hangover. He woke up missing his leg after a night out. I shouldn't laugh.
That's every drinker's
I'm sorry.
fear.
Yeah, he basically he got run over by a train. He part of his
missing
left
his leg.
This is the recreation we can see.
Out.
Yeah, and he
Can
basically.
you imagine that? I mean, he must have been so pissed.
So yes.
And in so many levels, but to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna lie on this track and
for
see what happens.
For 6 hours. He stayed there for hours. He woke up with part of his leg missing, obviously called for help. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy.
That's on your feel-good segments today?
No, that's not part of the feel-good segments. This is another slightly terrifying story I want to talk about.
One.
Now, if you remember last week, I was talking about rats. There was a massive rat that was discovered in Sweden.
Yes.
Double the size of a normal rat. Also in England at the moment, there's an epidemic of rats in Birmingham, apparently. And in Germany, a town is feared to be overrun by giant river rats.
They're taking over Europe?
Yeah, now what I love about this article in the Mirror is it says giant German rats with massive fangs.
No pictures of the giant rats? Are you kidding me? Okay.
It's got very large fangs.
This is bigger than the Crimea, invasion.
This is the news,
this
basically.
Is the news.
Now, what I love about this article, okay, so it says, the terrifying river dwellers have taken over the town of Halle in Germany, and then it just has a segue. The settlement is the birthplace of Nazi Reinhard Heydrich. One of the architects of the Holocaust.
Oh my God!
That's connected somehow to the river rats.
This one we can make these jokes just so everybody understands. We can make these jokes.
So these rodents are known as kopu, and they're water rats from South America. They can grow up to be 42 inches long. Yes. This is massive.
That's terrifying.
And they may be making their way to.
We got 10 seconds. We're going to leave you on the two-legged dog because he was happy, smiley, and not a giant rat. And we're going to say that when we get back. The Harry Potter project that began as a comic relief book will evolve into a 3-part mega movie prequel to the Potter.
Sushiara.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Maar ninguém. Jeff Abramowitz?
Yes, buying chutney. Yeah.
Do. Kevin Tugia.
And thank you for staying with us because it's April Fool's Day. It's April 1st, 2014. I'd like to announce peace in the Middle East, but no one will believe me. Therefore, we are joined in studio by the Sport Magazine host, Jonathan Regev.
Good morning. Is that true?
Is that
am
true?
I here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're here to tell us all lies.
Yes.
All lies.
Yes, I do.
No, but you do. You've got something very exciting.
Yeah.
And violent.
Yes. Sports fans, you know, sports are very emotional. It brings out all the emotions.
Yeah.
I have been there myself, but
right.
On the emotional side, not on the violent side.
Okay, you didn't beat anybody up.
No.
Okay.
He cries. I'm not.
He cries. Zivkitao in studio also. He cries. Yes.
I'm not too strong to beat up anybody. I'm sorry.
Very sweet.
The thin line between being a fervent supporter of your team and crossing into violent, perhaps hooliganism, is sometimes a very thin line. Mm-hmm. If I do this, maybe I can do an extra step, and maybe it's crossed.
And beer doesn't help.
Exactly, beer doesn't help. A lot of things don't help, and people are trying. Police forces are trying to around the world trying to set the line. What's legitimate? What's illegitimate? Before we speak about this, let's see Ori Baum's story about.
Take a look at the report. Definitely.
Many times, fans are considered as the 12th player of the team, as their culture is a profound identity for their unwavering support to the club.
I learned to love Botafogo, and to this day, it's been my passion.
Some fans may grow and become a living encyclopedia of their teams, collecting the proper memorabilia.
I started the museum in 1997. It was my dream because I was a fan of Platini from very young.
But fans can also be decision makers. In Spain, the socios hold part ownership of their club and have a major influence on the team's decisions, a privilege that is passed from father to son in places like Barcelona, Madrid, and Bilbao. In France, the only team that gives its supporters a share in management is Saint-Étienne, an established and well-organized club. Unfortunately, violence often casts a dark shadow on football. In 2010, Jan Lorenz was killed by hooligans outside a PSG Marseille match, an act which shook Robin Leproux, former president of the Parisian club, who initially decided to stop the violence.
What the family expressed is that he did not die for nothing. That is to say, that we advance, we take heavy, new, effective decisions at PSG in order to reduce violence near the Parc des Princes.
The most passionate fans, the ultras, are usually ejected out of the stadium as they are blacklisted and banned from entering matches. Football clubs wish to change the profile of the public to avoid further tragedies, and now football fans have become consumers, changing the atmosphere of the game.
The services of the police and PSG club leaders managed to eradicate violence in the Parc des Princes and to ensure that the atmosphere at the stadium will once again become family-friendly.
The enthusiasm of PSG fans can often go borderline. In 2001, Parisian hooligans came to beat Turkish people during a game against Galatasaray. That was the same in 2006 when a police officer was killed for protecting a young Jewish man after a match between PSG and Hapoel Tel Aviv. In 2013, the Parisian fans ransacked the Trocadero after winning the French championship.
After 22 years, this is the first time I have seen such events and such hooliganism. And indeed, this is the first time in my life I have seen such violence.
A legal arsenal was deployed to punish troublemakers. The 1993 Aliot Marie Act and the 2005 Sarkozy Act provided stadium bans and dissolving of the most extreme fan groups. In England, the restrictions for football hooligans are harsh, from fining repeat offenders and even judging them during matches. But not all football fans are violent thugs, as most of them simply come for the love of the game.
Joined by Jonathan Regev, the host of the Sport magazine. But, question that, is back to be asked, can one take the violence out of the fans? Isn't that an integral part? As I hate to I'm not playing devil's advocate, but isn't that an integral part of being a football fan?
The answer is no. If you're a violent fan, you will remain a violent fan.
Yeah.
Education can go to a certain level. But two things were mentioned here at the end of the story. One, not all football fans are violent thugs.
Right.
We have to remember that. Second, the story spoke about England. England gave the example that it's possible to take violence out of the football pitches. England.
That's where it worked.
England in the 80s was suffering. People refrained from going to football because the stadiums, they were owned by the hooligans. If we can remember so many tragedies, like the Hazel tragedy, for example,
right,
with Liverpool fans. What did the British, the English commissions and the government did? They just took away all the violent fans. They found all of them, 100% of them. They mapped them all, and they do not come into the stadium anymore. Was the atmosphere in the games affected? Absolutely.
What did it do to the game? What did it do to football in
Try
Britain?
going to a game in England. You have to take a mortgage to do that. Ticket prices are terribly expensive. There's no more standing pitches. You can only sit down, and the atmosphere.
Because that means turning the game for the upper classes in many ways.
That happened.
Yeah.
That happened. The question is, what is better? Is it better to have it for the upper class like it is now, or have it of upper class and tourists, or leave it the way it was and make it a completely violent atmosphere? I hate to say it, I prefer the first option.
No, but it's being very honest, because I'm wondering, football at the end of the day is the game of the masses, no? It's the game of the working class.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so.
Where do we see the problems with English fans when they travel abroad? The English police is also doing a very, very good job. They map the hooligans. They actually know who they are, and ahead of big tournaments like the World Cup that's coming up, for example, they do not let them leave England. But, they can do that. You can... They're in the European Union, so they can find ways.
Right.
They can go to other countries, and then they can sneak out or travel a month ahead of time. Sometimes they do, but in English Premier League, it's very, very rare these days to see violence, and that was a place plagued with violence. So is it possible to fight against that?
Exactly.
Yes,
and in
with
France,
a price.
is it working though? Because in France, it seems like they're trying to do. I find also that there's a lot of racism in football.
A lot of racism. Football,
yeah.
just like you say, football is a place where you bring out
rent.
anything.
Yeah.
No boundaries. So if you're racist, if you're violent, that is the place where it's going to come out. So in football, it happens. Now, football is just a mirror of society. French society, English society, Israeli society. There is racism. There is violence.
Yeah,
Where does it come out in
racism
football?
in Israeli football. I'm wondering what is done in here, that they ban some fans from, they block them from games, don't they?
Yes, but not enough. Obviously, with Beitar Jerusalem last year, they brought 2 Muslim players. That caused a big uproar, a big division in the stands. Many
whole
fans.
Discussion on itself.
Yeah, many fans of the team actually turned their back to the team. They said, we don't want a Muslim player. Muslim players. That's as far as it went. Not all Israeli teams, of course. Not all Israeli football.
Right.
Not all Beitar Jerusalem fans. We have to remember that. A small minority, but a loud minority.
And really quickly, something coming up tonight?
Champions League tonight. 2 very interesting games. First, Atletico Madrid against Barcelona. First against second in the Spanish League.
How can you come here without Atletico Madrid?
Of course, Atletico Madrid. And here we see this is Barcelona training ahead of the game. They're favorites because they're more experienced, the more talented team. There's Messi, of course. And as for Atletico Madrid, a big problem for them.
Messi doing his pants, yeah.
Yeah, taking care of his pants.
Yeah.
For Atletico Madrid, the problem are their lead striker, Diego Costa, is injured. Not so sure if he's going to play tonight.
And these are the first and second teams in Spain. And obviously this week in Barcelona, next week in Madrid. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting, very exciting because that's your team, isn't it?
Atletico Madrid is my team.
Is your team. Yeah?
Go Atletico, go.
I remember.
Win the Spanish championship. I'll be happy with that.
You'll be happy with that. Okay, this is the time to move to something completely different. Ziv, did you understand any of this?
Well, that's my first time seeing Messi, so...
Sorry.
First time you see him and he's messing with his pants.
He's messing with his pants.
Like,
now you get the attraction.
This is what April Fool's Day is all about.
Completely. Ziv Kitao, mega geek, here with the most exciting stories you have to hear. Yes.
Let's start with a rant.
Please.
Okay, so Kevin Tsuchiara, I said it right. Tsuchiara. He's the CEO of Warner Brothers, and he did plenty of things that were good for Warner Brothers. One of them is something that will make tons of money for Warner Brothers and will cause me to, I don't know, kill someone. Perhaps.
Please, tell me.
Perhaps. So there's a trilogy of mega movies, whatever that means.
Mega movies just already sounds bad.
For an encyclopedia. Now, before you say, what?
For what?
Did they lose their mind? An encyclopedia? Well, specifically, Encyclopedia by J.K. Rowling, which is a book that is part of the Harry Potter series, which is...
That thing will never die.
No, the book came out and it was like a textbook from Harry Potter, so it's not even by J.K. Rowling.
It's like terms of use in Harry Potter and what they mean?
No, it's like creatures. Creatures, it's like the textbook for Harry Potter. If you were in that school, you would read about the pixies.
That would be your encyclopedia.
And they were like, who are the pixies? Where are they from? How do you summon them and kill them?
Blah, 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 yeah.
And whatever. So the book, when it came out, like when you go out and buy it from Amazon, you won't see J.K. Rowling on it. You'll say the professor who wrote the book.
Invented character.
Right? So now they're making a movie out of it. And I'm like,
well, that's three movies.
Three mega movies. Again, I don't know what that terms mean. Nobody knows.
No.
But it's like, what? What?
Enough is enough.
Next,
I know. No, seriously.
Next will be, they're making a movie out of Encyclopedia Carta. And next, after that,
Britannica, I was wondering what to do
Wikipedia, the true story.
The true story of Wikipedia. A mega
and
movie
all the
in
flame wars that happen.
25,000.
Actually, Wikipedia makes more sense as a movie than anything else because the flame war, I don't know if you know that, but Wikipedia is created by the masses. The flame wars that are happening behind the scenes, where people are like fighting over terms and definitions, this is insane.
It's
and
violent.
It's like better than. Have you seen the hooligan movie, Green Street Hooligans?
No.
It's about the hooligans in soccer, in football. It's about it in football in England. We just saw that, and it's about that scene in the 80s of hooligan of football.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing as Wikipedia. Let's move on before I burst.
No, please don't kill anybody.
Yes.
Jonathan Reagan is a little scared.
So next,
and I'm not too strong. I just
no,
said
exactly.
Yes.
As you said, you're not a hooligan.
So next, we're going to a blast from the past. An ad that just came out. It was broadcast in the 90s. It's a brilliant, beautiful beer ad. It came out in the UK for Murphy's style beer. It was based on a movie that was hit back then. It was called Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is a comic book about a cyberpunk world where machine and man are one thing. And then they made
slightly is happening these days.
It was beautiful. It was really beautifully rendered. And now they created this, and then they created this ad, and now the ad is out again because the company who created it are like changing their thing.
Right, it's like an anime movie.
It's a 1 minute anime thing, which this is the thing. This is like
and
they
all
went out, all the samurais.
Beer.
They were called out and they're drinking the beer, and it's like Murphy's. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's what we need to see more of these.
Yeah, that
like,
really makes me want to
really
have some beer right
beautiful
now.
ads because today I don't want to watch any ad because most of it's
no. So you brought us the anime commercial. I don't know what that's doing to Jonathan.
Now let's move on to Star Trek.
Yes.
Star Trek.
Still alive as well.
Yes. Unfortunately. Anyways,
no,
but this time, a blast from the past again. Wrath of Khan was and still is considered the most perfect Star Trek movie ever.
How many were there?
Billion.
Billion,
That's the
exactly.
second one. That's the one that launched the billionth. Because the first one was horribly acted, horrible story, horrible everything.
The one back in the day?
That was the one about Voyager going out of the solar system and returning as a sentient whatever.
Yes.
And then The Wrath of Khan, which the new one, the Star Trek Into Darkness, is a remake of this movie, actually. And Khan was this enhanced human being who was sentenced to whatever, and he came back.
The storyboard of this thing?
And that's now the storyboard is out. Now, for fans of the movie and for people who are interested in cinema...
And you have to mind that Trekkies are insane people, even more so than you.
No, but the truth is that even if you're just a fan of cinema in general, this is beautiful because it shows the whole, like, 300, almost 300... storyboards, pictures,
images,
like everything that was done to create the movie. And this, for people who really love cinema, this is fascinating look behind the scenes because this is how a movie is made. Before
I gotta say, I adore cinema. This is doing nothing for me.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You see the shots, the main shots, how the camera is moving, everything about it. So that's great. And now, before you cut me out, let's move to the Muppets.
Yes.
So if the Muppets were real,
Muppets I know about.
You see, now look at that. Can you tell me who's who in this image?
Oh my God.
Control room, do not move the picture yet.
Where are the old guys?
Where are the Muppets?
Right. So an artist took the
guy in the back.
It's a famous.
But that looks like the guy from the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, right. Actually, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so who's on the front? Come on, you know this. Kermit. Jesus.
Really?
Behind him, the blonde is
Piggy.
Right.
Okay.
The black girl there, of a girl guy.
From the band. No. From the band. Oh no, there's Animal behind, right? The old guys I can see.
You suck.
Jonathan, help me out here.
On the left for Kermit, our left. Who's that? Now you can see.
But
this is the original picture, and someone just took the image and said, okay, so if the Muppets were real
humans?
People, this is how they would look. Horrible.
I know.
It's horrific. I'm so happy the Muppets are made of felt, and that's it.
We got 30 seconds. That just destroyed the Muppets image for me forever.
This is
Jonathan
what I'm going
Regev is crying. Look what you've done.
I can't take this anymore.
Exactly. That was it for us, folks. Please join us. I24 News. Find us, first of all, on the web, Facebook, Twitter. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning for another morning edition. Just start your day every single day as you should, because we're watching. Thank you.